With 5 nominations tonight, including one for New Artist of the Year, here is Camila Cabello.
What can be said about Camila Cabello? She was part of the girl group Fifth Harmony. She's a singer, an immigrant, a mental health advocate, a living daughter and sister. She's the first Latin Cinderella. She's the definition of the American dream. And she's racist. Or she was racist. Or she's still racist? Let's get into it. We all know the story. In 2019, a Twitter thread detailing all her problematic behavior went viral. Camila came out on all her socials to apologize for her past, but it wasn't enough. She recently starred in Cinderella and is promoting new music, and with her recent activity, I've noticed that people are still quick to bring up her past actions. That's what we're going to talk about today. How her past kept resurfacing throughout her career, how she dealt with every resurgence from her past, and what she can finally do to remove her label. Let's start off with 2013. In 2013, Camila was around 15 or 16 when she joined Fifth Harmony. The group originated from the American X Factor and has signed a deal with Epic Records. Fifth Harmony was very active during this time since they were trying to build their fan base. So they were doing tours, releasing social media content, doing endorsement deals. Anyways, when they started to release their own music, it was during the summer of 2013. They were promoting Miss Moving On. It was also around this time that Camila tweets this. Now, what is she talking about, you might be thinking? Well, it turns out her fans found her Tumblr and all of his horrible anti-black, anti-Asian, xenophobic posts. Now, her implying how she knows it looks bad and implying she's changed is something to keep in mind. Analyzing more of this statement, she doesn't directly mention the Tumblr or what its contents entailed. She's just very vague, which makes me think that it's designed this way so it won't be used against her or won't ruin her chances of garnering new fans. This was the first instance where her horrible Tumblr content was brought up, but it was quickly brushed under the rug since she was still a nobody, and in my opinion, not enough people knew enough about her to make it a big deal. If the X Factor were a bigger show, then maybe her past content would have gotten her kicked out of the competition, gotten some negative attention. But it also was 2013. I don't think anyone was really holding anyone accountable for anti-black behavior like they do today.
Cyberbullying has become such a huge thing.
Being confident is about standing up for ideas, for your opinions, for your dreams, and for other people.
You know, I saw
What the heck?
disturbing images of me being lynched, and it was crazy.
Okay, so before we jump into 2016, I'll be splitting the year up into 2 parts. The first part is about the leaks that happened at the top of the year, and then the Normani situation that happened in the fall. In January 2016, Cabello had her iPhone contents leaked into the internet. Some reports pinned the attack to a UK hacker group that targeted all the girls of Fifth Harmony, amongst other celebs. They succeeded in getting Dinah's contents along with Camila, but failed with all the other members. Although, with my snooping online, I found out there was another narrative. From what I read off of the Tumblr blog exposing Fifth Harmony, there was a bunch of people from her group chat. Some were Camilizers, some were casual fans, and some were just students actually hacking to her device to see if they could. They hacked her back in 2015, then its contents was leaked in January 2016. The material on her phone was surprising, stuff that Camila has yet to acknowledge to this day. There were social media DMs that had anti-black language in it, iPhone messages where Camila calls her group the N-word, and other contents that harbored anti-black sentiments. Camila quickly went into damage control after the leaks went public. She starts to post about being a victim of trolls, posting covers online of Justin Bieber's Love Yourself. She really played up the victim narrative and started hanging out with Taylor Swift's one black friend, Soraya from Empire, and started to tweet out support for the BLM movement. I've also noticed later on that year she was posting pics with her black guitarist, Juno the artist. So she meets Juno December of 2015 when they kicked off their 727 tour, the group. Later on in 2016, you see pics of them together, so to me, this screams damage control. So if anyone dared to point out her racism, her supporters could point to the guitarist and Soraya and be like, nope, she has black friends, so she can't be racist. That's just my theory.
I was just wondering what's wrong with you? We're talking about that.
Anyways, the black friend optics seemed to do the trick. That along with her pro-BLM tweets, she randomly starts to post earlier that year, Which, speaking of her BLM tweets, the first post was posted in response to the leaks, and the second one was posted because around that time, the Castile and the Sterling shooting was really all over the news, so all of Hollywood had to come out to show support. But that's not all. Interestingly enough, from my Twitter research, I found that she had another Tumblr account called Wake Me Up. From what I can infer, it was started up in 2013. This Tumblr account contains some pro-Black content along with other inspirational posts. Now, I have scruples about how authentic her pro-Blackness was on this account. The pro-Black content was posted around 2015, and if we were to believe the narrative that the group chat is the one that hacked her, that's also around the same time. So we have to assume that she knew that she was hacked, right? So to me, her and her team were trying to get ahead of the backlash. They knew they were hacked in 2015. Let's post some content to counteract what evidence will be leaked online.
What the fuck are you doing?
That's what it screams to me. I'm just speculating here. Anyways, Camila's team quickly scrubbed the internet from the leaks, but thanks to a lot of blogs and Twitter users, they saved a lot of evidence from that leak. And honestly, throughout the whole leak era, she wasn't really held accountable. I mean, it made a splash online, but it didn't make major news because there was like other material from other celebs being leaked and it kind of covered up her situation.
You just want to say, fuck you.
So she was safe for now, right? But essentially enough, some smaller entertainment news sources like J14, they actually referenced the leak. And actually in 2020, BuzzFeed also referenced this leak.
Actually, I went through a very traumatic experience. I was bullied online for the color of my skin a few summers ago when I was actually in the group, and it was one of the darkest times in my life. I had to deal with it alone.
Now on to the Normani incident. On August 1st, 2016, Normani did an online interview with Galore magazine. She's asked to describe the members of her group. She answers rather quickly with all the members, stating something positive about each one, but when it came to Cabello, she had trouble finding the right words. When she finally decided on saying she was quirky, that's when the Camilizers decided to attack. Soon there was a campaign to racially harass Normani. Like legit, there was one Twitter account that called to action for everyone to attack Miss Corday. Prior to the interview, there had been rumors that Cabello and Corday didn't get along, so this interview was like the light that lit the match, and Camilizers started to attack. Now, there are some who say that it only got onto a racist level when the initial attacks on Corday didn't faze her. So the Camilizers amped up the ante. The online attacks got so bad, Normani made a Twitter statement talking about how these trolls were affecting her. When the attacks didn't let up, she made a Twitter announcement saying that she would leave the platform. That was August 6, 2016. Cabello made a response to quell her horrible fans that same day, but a lot of critics thought that she waited too long to do so. After all, Cabello had a history of quelling her fans and clapping back on social media in a quick manner. For instance, November 2014, Camila was on Watch What Happens Live along with Fifth Harmony. She announces that she's seeing Austin Mahone, another teen pop star. At the time, it was rumored that Mahone and Cabello were a couple, but nothing was confirmed. Anyways, it was a big deal that their relationship was official, but soon after they broke up later on that same month. When the breakup was announced, there was a narrative that was put out that Mahone broke up with Cabello because he thought she was a clout chaser, which he went on Twitter to deny. Later on that day, Camila made a tweet for her fans to settle down and to attack anyone. Another example of her quick response came in 2015 when Camila came to a band member's aid from a horrible comment made from her ex. Lauren, her group member, was thrown shade by her ex, a member from the Vamps, who alluded that the group was having their turn with her or something like that. I guess the Vamps were misquoted during the interview because it sounded like Lauren was starting around. Anyways, the same day the interview was released, Camila came to Lauren's defense along with the rest of the group and Harmonizers. So you see, she knows when to act quick. When it came to Normani's situation, it was a bit different. She was hesitant. These attacks happened like August 1st, and it took her until August 6th to say something.
Dang, girl.
And let's take a look at what she even said. Right off the bat, I'd say it wasn't specific enough. I don't like how it didn't center around Normani and instead placed Camila in the center of it. Honestly, It had the spirit of the 2013 tweet, vague as a mofo. It just goes to show how either self-centered Camila was, or how she didn't care enough to be more proactive. Just out of curiosity, I was looking to see how celebs responded to this whole Normani situation. Gina Rodriguez came out and retweeted one of Camila's tweets responding to Normani's incident, but she said nothing about this in the retweet. She just said something about, oh, I like this tweet Camila had. So I'd say I place most of the blame on Camila for not, referencing Normani in the tweet in the first place, but then again, this actually made news, so Gina could have easily looked it up and see what was happening. Zendaya, JoJo, Becky G, Kiki Palmer all showed their support. Gina Rodriguez later on came and changed her tune, referencing Normani's situation and supporting her directly. I guess she caught wind of what was happening. Funny enough, Gina isn't on Twitter anymore because she got dragged in 2019 for saying the N-word, and Twitter was lighting her up for it, so she left.
A day after those derogatory comments surfaced, the superstar taking to social media to apologize, saying she knows her past language was wrong and asking for forgiveness.
In December 2019, there was a popular Twitter thread, like I said, that dug up all the old content from Cabello's Twitter and Tumblr back in 2012 and 2013. It's funny because when Camila apologized for her actions, there were so many celebs in kind of similar situations. Many celebs were having their own racist scandal around this time. Liam Neeson was called out for his anti-black sentiments, talking about his friend being violated early in 2019. Gina Rodriguez got her scandal in the fall of 2019 that led her to being dragged for the rest of the year. Shawn Mendes also had a scandal of his own around that time, where he confronted his horrible tweets at a fan Q&A. Fat Joe was being called out that winter for using the N-word. Speaking of that winter, Justin Bieber had an old cover of his resurfaced where he's singing One Less Lonely Girl, replacing girl with the N-word. Anyways, Cabello apologized for her Tumblr content on December 18th, 2019. She didn't mention anything about the leaks, but she was so vague, she didn't explicitly mention anything about the Tumblr content, I feel like the only reason why she was posting anything in the first place was because all these other celebs were responding to their own crap. And I think when she posted this, she thought her career would be like all the other celebs who spoke out about their racist mistakes at that time. But that was not the case. If it hadn't been a whole panorama happening for people to sit and dwell on her actions, maybe she would have gotten unscathed. But, who knows? First off, her apology wasn't good enough. I mean, the other celebs' apologies weren't good either, but the reason I think her problematic past didn't blow over like the other celebs was because the sheer amount of racist material was too much.
Help me. Help me. This isn't cute.
Plus, she had bonus content from 2016 leaks that she still didn't acknowledge, and it also proved that she didn't change since 2012. Not to mention the Normani situation wasn't being handled well. So, in her statement, she called her post mistakes. I call BS. This is beyond mistakes. There was too many discriminatory posts to be considered a mistake made from ignorance. A mistake is like once or twice, or even like more subtle racism, And it's like her content was full on hardcore racist. So to me, it just screams, I am deliberately doing this. I have a dark side. And mind you, she was consistently posting stuff like this. Cabello was acting like an unapologetic colonizer, like she was an active participant in racism. Like if racism were her bus, she wouldn't be a passenger, she would be the bus driver for the county. Feeding into and propelling a horrid ideology to keep it going. Knowing exactly where to go, what to do. Not to mention, with her massive following, she was influencing and promoting this vile behavior. Shit, her fans might have well been the passengers. Now I'm just gonna say it. I'm not surprised if a non-black celeb has an anti-black past. At this point, I'm even used to my black celebs having some anti-blackness. Anti-blackness is such a normal thing in this country that it doesn't even faze me. So when someone gets exposed of their past, I'm not shocked. I do think people can change and be forgiven, but you have to own up to everything you've done. Show that you're taking the steps to change and make sure you don't slip back to those old ways.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Also, be prepared to keep apologizing every so often. Being in the social media age, people can find evidence of your past mistakes, and for some, it could be news for them. So you gotta keep making amends. I believe when celebs do racist stuff, they know it's wrong. Since they aren't held accountable, they think it must not be that bad, and everyone else is doing it. Privilege much? Until karma gets them, or the ancestors, or whichever force comes to check them. Anyways, back on to Camila. Throughout the years, up until now, she's not acting like someone who's truly changed, in my opinion, or even someone who wants to make amends. Looking at her past, I couldn't help but think she had multiple times where she could have gotten in front of her scandal. Like, if she truly wanted to prove that she's changed and wasn't that person from before. I mean, this was a time where people were having conversations about race and accountability and privilege. I understand it was still a bit of a leap because people weren't as vocal as we are now, obviously. But still, it was a very political environment. She spoke out against racism against people like her. So, I mean, I don't know. Anyways, I mean, the only time she kind of tried to get ahead of this or try to reference her Tumblr material before December of 2019 was in a UK magazine article from the Sunday Times. She referenced her leaks. Actually, they referenced her leaks and racist material, and this is how she responded. She mentioned how she wasn't a perfect person and she didn't set out to be a perfect pop star and she stands for love only and all that jazz. And honestly, the tone in her response makes me think that she's playing the victim card, but that's just my opinion. I don't know how y'all see it. And it's ironic because she didn't acknowledge any of her victims, or explicitly say what she did. But, let's just move on. Let's just fast forward to what happened after Cabello's December 2019 apology. So, after that apology, Normani comes out with her Rolling Stones article in February 2020.
I struggle with talking about this because I didn't want it to be part of my narrative, but I am a black woman who is a part of an entire generation that has a similar story. Senseless attacks daily, as does the rest of my community. It would be dishonest if I said that this particular scenario didn't hurt me. It was devastating that this came from a place that was supposed to be a safe haven and a sisterhood, because I knew that if the tables were turned, I would defend each of them in a single heartbeat. It took days for her to acknowledge what I was dealing with online, and then years for her to take responsibility for the offensive tweets that recently resurfaced. I really hope that an important lesson was learned in this. I hope there's genuine understanding about why this was absolutely unacceptable.
What does Camila do afterwards? Well, she keeps working. March of 2020, she starts filming Sony's Cinderella. Of course, filming was cut short because of the panorama, but while they were promoting the film, Billy Porter went on to say in some interviews that Camila was wonderful to work with.
She's awesome.
And she's a Latina.
Yes.
Really cool.
Yes.
Which makes me think that he was prompted to mention that in interviews because her team wanted to clean up her image. Pop star with the racist past and him saying she's great to work with, a gay black man vouching for her would help her image. That's how I saw it.
She's great. I love her. She is beautifully grounded, present, available, open.
And away watching this Cinderella.
So many things. I think I love the message in the movie of empathy and compassion. There's...
Baby girl, you can't have forgiveness if you don't own up for everything you've done. By the way, all those efforts to clean her image didn't do much because when the soundtrack to the music was released, people had an issue with the Rhythm Nation being sung by Camila. Now, to be clear, the song would be sung by the whole cast, but a song all about social change and standing against racism didn't resonate well with the Gen Pop, since Cabello had issues with being anti-black and all. Not to mention she'd be singing a song by the great Janet Jackson, a black pop icon. The way Cinderella was marketed, Cabello was heralded as this first Latina Cinderella, and let's talk about her ethnicity.
This guy texted me, he was like, what did he say? He was like, "You like my coffee, brown and hot."
So, talking about Cabello's background, when Cabello went solo, she really marketed the heck out of her Latina ethnicity. She made Latin pop. She constantly talked about her background. Her team definitely did a good job building her fan base. A lot of them are Spanish speakers from what I can tell from the socials. Anyways, post her December 2019 apology, I feel like her team made her pander to her Latin audience. From her summer 2021 single Don't Go Yet, which low-key sounded like she was begging the Gen Pop to give her another chance, to her Tiny Desk performance that winter, which debuted some songs off the album with the Latin band, to her White House performance singing Christmas songs with the Latin band. It really seemed like she wanted to have a firm grip on her Latin demo to A, still be relevant, B, grow from her niche to take another crack at the mainstream, and C, if people remember how Latin she is, maybe they'll think that what she did wasn't so bad. There's a quote from Pop Sugar that sums up my thoughts on the matter perfectly. White Latinx are also guilty of claiming BIPOC identity when it serves them and dropping it when it doesn't. Leaning into Latinidad as a marginalized identity is the most popular tactic used by Latinx when they are called out for racist behavior. Now, I don't know how to categorize Cabello racially. I'm just gonna say she's white adjacent, but it doesn't matter what you are, you can still be anti-black. And with everything that just happened in the past, it seems like her team is targeting the demo that's not going to pin the racism label on her head to the degree as their American Gen Pop counterpart. Remember when I mentioned Camila was dropping singles? Well, last summer when she released Don't Go Yet, she was yet again labeled as a racist for announcing her single during Normani's release of Wild Side. People accused her of being racist and sabotaging Normani. It didn't get any better when Camila replaced Normani on Jimmy Fallon performing her new single, and it doesn't stop there. People then started to light her up online when they accused her of putting one of her dancers in blackface. Cabello responded that it was supposed to be a white guy with a bad tan, but the dancers were all multicultural with white, black, and Latino cultures, backgrounds, whatever. And another thing, let's talk about her racial healing classes. It was reported that she started going to racial healing classes right after she made her apology in December 2019. I call bullshit, because if she had went in 2020, why not report it instead of doing it in 2021? But maybe I'm just being too picky. Maybe I'm just reaching. She did do an interview with People magazine in the spring of 2021 talking about how she partnered up with organizations fighting to end racism and sexism and other horrible stuff. All that is great. She also provided some of her social media platforms to these social justice organizations so they can reach more people and educate her fan base. Listen, all this stuff is great, but it falls short when you don't own up to your own actions. And also, I feel like she just started doing all this or started promoting all this now because she was becoming more active in 2021. Like in 2020, she literally went into hibernation, and because she was having projects out in 2021, she needed to do all this to make her products or her content she was putting out there more palatable. That's just my speculation. Like, she needs to directly admit to her being racist, to her participating in racism, and then asking for forgiveness for all this stuff to actually matter. She needs to basically redo her apology. Pandering to her Latin audience isn't going to fix her public image. She needs to go onto black shows, networks, and groups or something to try to speak to the black audience to try to really make amends. Cabello, from what I can tell, has primarily focused on groups that weren't her main targets from her racist behavior. Blacks got hit the most. So why isn't she making an effort to go onto these black outlets like Cameron Hall and the Cannon? Heck, the Red Table Talk. This leads me to believe that she hasn't really changed and she's more interested in getting the mainstream to give her a pass so she can continue her career. Business as usual. To me, she needs to do more. Maybe open up about what she learned from those racial healing classes. I'm going to need her to do more, like to be on this anti-racism vibe as much as she is on this mental health advocacy. And this is why she'll always get dragged and be labeled as a racist. When Camila got exposed in 2019, it really got to me. It wasn't just because of the Normani situation. She reminds me of a system that doesn't care about black people, a system that shits all over us, gets off on it, and then uses us to propel itself forward. Seeing all those posts, her leaks, coupled with her horrible ass apologies and her handling of the Normani situation, I saw her do the same thing. Shut all over black people blatantly because, like I said before, her material was so hardcore, with some hardcore anti-blackness, not the casual kind, like non-black saying that N-word with the GA, but she was using hard R's and stereotypes. She was using all her black friends when she was trying to clean her image in 2016. When she went solo, she certainly had no problem using up all them black rappers. And even more recently, Billy Porter was being used to help clean her image during the Cinderella promotions. Before I end this video, I have to say, I understand that she could have changed. I have to keep that in mind. She is, I'm assuming, a loving daughter, sister. She could have this big heart. All these things could be true, but just because you're good in some areas of your life doesn't mean you are good in all areas. And also, I don't have to stick around to see this changed version of her. I don't wish her any ill will, and it would be the best for everyone if she did go on to do better. This is the only video I'm ever going to make about her pertaining to the situation. I'm going to leave this alone and move on. If you know you don't like her, don't pay attention to her. All those hate watchers bumped the Cinderella movie to #1. Streaming, all those hate listeners, you're just providing more streams to her songs. If she wants to get rid of this racist label, she needs to reissue an apology, explicitly owning up to what she did. Everything, with no excuses. Acknowledge the hurt that she has caused directly and indirectly. And from there, she can go on to open about being a champion for BIPOCs all she wants, mental health. She can talk about her racial healing classes, what she learned from it. Reach out to Black America. You know? That's all I have to say for now. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Goodbye.
I use language that I'm deeply ashamed of and will regret forever. I was uneducated and ignorant. Well, at 15, we were all uneducated and ignorant, but not to race. There's certain things, if you were raised up, not dragged up, there were certain things that there were certain things that we all knew. And once I became aware of the history and the weight of the true meaning behind this horrible and hurtful language, I was deeply embarrassed and I ever used it. You know what? Sit down.